All right, tell your mom, tell your neighbor. It's time for BloodHorse Monday. Thanks for hanging out with us. A New Year's edition of the program. Why not? He's Sean Collins. I'm Louie Rabaut. So glad you could hang out with us. We'll talk Eclipse Awards. We'll talk Derby preps. And of course, we'll talk sovereignty with Michael Banahan from Godolphin. He'll be our guest today on the program. Sean, you look so wholesome right now. It is just killing me how freaking wholesome you look right now. Where are you? And I mean, you couldn't have set up a better background. Look at those cabinets. You know what's been made in that? A stew. You see those cabinets and you know a stew has been made in that kitchen. How are you, Sean? You doing all right?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to ask about that stew question. Yes, I am doing all right. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy 2026. I am continuing my last of my 3 weeks of holiday traveling. I was in Michigan 2 weeks ago. I was in Saratoga last week. Now I'm back in my hometown of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. My dad's birthday comes right after the New Year. It was yesterday, so it's always nice to kind of stick out here for that. And then I'll head back to Kentucky. Here tomorrow, actually. So I'll be heading back to Kentucky tomorrow. 4 straight weeks in different places. It's going to be what I'm pulling off here, but that seems to be the usual for me.
It's pretty incredible. The things you learn on air. My dad's birthday was yesterday. How about that?
Was it really?
Unbelievable coincidence. Yes, unbelievable coincidence. My dad, same name as me, turning 70 yesterday. How about that? So who's counting? Who's counting? Not my dad, I'll tell you that. My birthday in a couple months. We'll have to do something fun for that on the show, for sure. But Sean,
we're going to celebrate that? Why are we celebrating that?
Do you know what cracks me up?
What?
Go ahead.
Hold on. Before you say what cracks you up? We did not even mention January 1st. We have to say happy birthday to all the thoroughbreds in the Northern Hemisphere.
Didn't have to do that.
Yes, we did have to do that.
Didn't have to do that. We did that show. Next, Sean's going to tell you he's a Pennsylvania bred. None of us need to know where you were sired. Like, none of us need to know that. Like, we're good. Like, there's something I don't need to think about, and that's that. All right. So, anyways, happy
bred
birthday.
and sired.
and certified. He's there for a week. And so there you go. But no, I always laugh, Sean, because there's a contingent that online at least. The Eclipse Awards, this, and this. And we were, you and I are lucky guys. We count Steve Kornacki amongst work friends, amongst work colleagues. And he's nice enough to jump on to do those shows with us. And just the backlash of voting according to your opinion about Horse of the Year and those kinds of things. And you know what I realized, Sean, is that with these kinds of votes, people only care if it doesn't go the way they care, right? The way
exactly.
They want, right? That's what they care about at all. And so it is funny to follow the people online who are kind of just curmudgeons about the sport anyway. They're just curmudgeon in their nature. Horse racing seems to have as many of those as any other sport on the planet. It's a remarkable thing about what we do. But the Eclipse Awards brings out all of it, man. Just how angry people get about like 3-year-old, filly or something. Like just
yeah,
everybody's gonna be okay. Don't worry about it. Michael Banahan will be fine. Don't worry about it.
It was I forget who said it, but I saw something the other day. Somebody was complaining about someone putting deterministic second on their turf horse or something, and I was like, "What?" I was debating between him and Notable Speech myself. I was like, "Wait a second!" Right? I know. I was like, I almost put him in the first spot there. Why are we complaining about him being in second? So yeah, it's hilarious seeing everybody kind of get worked up over their different opinions here. There a couple of the nominations I looked at. I was a little surprised. If anybody that didn't watch last week's show, you can hear Louie, myself, and Steve Kornacki's full thoughts on our Eclipse Awards and how we voted. And a couple of the nominations I didn't really pop up on our radar that we were talking about too much or didn't dive too much in depth. There are a couple that surprised me personally, but that's why we vote. Get the different opinions across the sport.
Who especially stood out to you as one of those?
I don't think I was expecting Bill Mott to get as much to get nominated. It didn't really seem like I know none of the three of us really kind of said anything. Obviously, he had a great year with Sovereignty. He had a great year with winning the Breeders' Cup with Scylla as well. But I just didn't see him picking up as much steam as he did until other people started posting their votes on January 1st, and I saw a lot of people actually had him in the top spot, so that surprised me a little bit. There was I know you had Nysos pretty high ranked. I was a little surprised to see that he did end up getting in the nominations.
I agree.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by that. He was also nominated for Champion Sprinter, which really caught me off guard personally. He he was second in the Churchill Downs, and then I think he won the Triple Bend, or it was one of those sprints after that, and then he never went back to sprinting afterwards. Yeah. So versus you had a horse like Patch Adams, who I know he's facing 3-year-olds, but he won 2 Grade 1s. I was a little surprised to see him to see Nisos on the champion sprinter nominations personally.
I will say this, Sean, this is why I never vote based on whether I have a horse in another category. Because my sense is there are a bunch of people who like Nisos and think he's one of the 3 best older dirt males, but they're stuck on the classic distance. They're stuck on those kinds of races rather than just voting for who they think the best horse is. And that's why for me, like if someone told me they thought She's So Spicy is the best 3-year-old filly, but she's a turf sprinter, I don't care that she's a turf sprinter. If she's the best at doing that, and she just beat older males, by the way, in the Breeders' Cup to do that, like if somebody made that case, I'm not going to be mad about it. And then to see her in the turf category, and then to see her in the 3-year-old category, and in the sprinting category, like vote for her based on the category, not on if you have her as a sprinter and then drop her out to a 3-year-old. Because I think Nisos is in the sprinting because voters didn't know what to do with the older dirt male category. So they were like, I'll leave Nisos out. I'll vote for Sierra Leone. I'll vote for Fierceness. I'll vote for Forever Young. I'll vote for Mindframe. I'll throw those guys in there. I'll make that about a 10 furlong thing as opposed to who just the best horse is. I never vote that way because I don't want to get stuck like what you just described.
Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of a weird scenario. I think back to Echo Zulu a couple years ago when she was a 3-year-old and she was nominated for female sprinter, and I know she ran second in the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Sprint, but I mean she was mostly routing the whole time. So yeah, that one just surprised me, especially considering the fact that he gets nominated for that and Mindframe doesn't, when Mindframe is the one that beat him in the Grade 1. Right. And I know Mindframe also only had the one race at the sprint. So again, I didn't even consider him really for that just because he spent most of the year not sprinting. But I'd say that was probably my biggest surprise, was Nisos popping up on the champion sprinter list. I know I mentioned Patch Adams was my 3rd horse. I don't think Nisos is going to win that award. I think that's going to be clearly either Bookham Dano or Ben Tornado. But I was surprised to see him put on the or get enough votes to be on the nominations there.
These awards always come out and they make me realize as well how much I don't discount turf running and how much Eclipse voters love dirt running, right? Like AG Bullet's nowhere to be found. There's nowhere to be found on any of these lists, that kind of thing. And so you'd really have to lean into dirt pedigree for that, or dirt results, I should say, for that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, or on the flip side of that, just really how much people kind of put into the Breeders' Cup still every year. Totally. There were a couple of Breeders' Cup winners that, even though they won, I didn't necessarily think that they should be in there. And I think you may have had him on your nominations as well. I don't think you voted him for the top spot, but I was surprised to see Rebels Romance have enough with not winning the Breeders' Cup Turf. I know he did come over and win the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic ahead of time, and obviously he ran a really good second, but I wonder how much of him getting enough to be nominated for Turf Horse, I wonder how much of that was reflecting on his entire career of coming over here and running in the Breeders' Cup rather than just what he did in 2025. Personally, for me, that was another one that kind of surprised me a little bit. But hey, people are going to vote how they vote.
I think with Rebels Romance, he is an example of a Lifetime Achievement Award kind of horse. I agree with you, by the way. And also, because he ran twice in North America, I think he just got more votes. I think people like that run at Aqueduct a little more than you did, Sean.
I know. I guess that surprised me a little bit, but I felt like he was the kind of horse that would have had to win the Breeders' Cup Turf to be on that list, and he didn't win the Turf, but then he still ended up on the list. So that surprised me for that.
Ethical Diamond not in the top 3 turf horses. Gazora makes the top 3 on the filly and mare side. It feels like an anti-Louie bias in that one, does it not?
It does feel like an I think everybody voted specifically for that reason. They said, we're going to leave out Ethical Diamond just to make Louie mad, but we're going to put in Gazora just to make Louie more mad. I think that was exactly everybody voted the Eclipse Awards based off of making you angry.
I agree. They all watched our episode and then they made the appropriate adjustments to make sure that I'm as angry as possible.
You have no one to blame but yourself. You didn't vote Ethical Diamond on top of that category. So.
I didn't vote him at all. No, it's my fault. I just bet on him. That's exactly right, man. Oh, man. Well, a man who's going to be busy at the Eclipse Awards, as he always is Michael Banahan. He joins us from Godolphin here on BloodHorse Monday. Appreciate him jumping on, and we are jumping on because of a horse that is a finalist in the Eclipse Awards. His name is Sovereignty. And Michael, good afternoon to start off. How are you?
Afternoon. Happy New Year. Very well.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you very
Happy
much.
New Year.
I'm glad you're doing well for sure. Do you like Sean's background there? Isn't that just a wholesome background he's got going?
Absolutely, yeah. He's carrying on the Christmas tradition. I think it's great.
Get it all the way to Epiphany. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I know. Well, this is really going to embarrass my dad when he watches this back, because he's usually one of the people that doesn't like the tree still being up, but they left it up a little longer since I was coming in after Christmas. So the fact that it's pulling all this attention.
Well, fantastic. I think it's great.
Michael, I wanted to ask about those Eclipse Awards before we get into the sovereignty discussion. We had you on last year after the Eclipse Awards. You were one of the first guests on this show. We're now up to 49 episodes of this thing, believe it or not.
Wow.
And
good job.
I guess I guess more no one else wants to do this, Michael. But when you see owner, when you see breeder, and you see yourself as a finalist, I even asked you about this in very specific terms last year. I imagine someone like you're thinking about the folks on the farm. You're thinking about people within the operation that make this thing go. Do you ever get tired of seeing your name on that nomination list?
No, because I think it's for us in Godolphin, it's a realization of all the work that's put down over years to get to that, to get to a stage where you're nominated for an owner or breeder. It's not one horse that's carrying you there. It's a collective of the stable that's doing that, and it's a collective of how well the trainers are doing for you, all the guys on the farm, all the people on the farm that get us there and get the horses in as good a shape as possible from when they're foaling them out to raising them as foals and yearlings. So it's just so many, people that are involved in that. It makes it very special, and to be able to do that with successive years is something we're very proud of, and it's a reflection on. You can look back and you say you've had a great year if you see your name nominated for one of those awards as the owner breeder, rather than individual awards are great when you get for the individual horses, and we love to have those as well. But the collective of how well the whole stable is going is so important to us, and so we really enjoy being there. And to answer your question, it's a long-winded one. No, don't get tired of that.
Well, we'll dive into sovereignty here in a moment. Obviously, he was the headliner for Godolphin this year, but putting him aside, you guys had good cheer when the Kentucky Oaks. She had a big first half of the season. Who were some of the other big horses that really kind of made Godolphin's year all the better, even if you took sovereignty out? Who were some of the other stars for you guys this year?
Well, First Mission had a great start to the year and won the Oaklawn Handicap, and he did us proud as well, and ran in against some really top class horses in Sierra Leone and the likes of those. And so he just, maybe didn't finish up the year as well as we would have liked. And but then Highland Falls, he did us proud as well, and ran a great race in defeat up in the Whitney as well. And unfortunately, we didn't quite get him to the Breeders' Cup, but he was training super, and I know Brad was very excited about getting him to the Breeders' Cup, even though he knew we also had Sovereignty in our arm going in there at that time. But I remember he was really gutted when he had to tell me that it was only the week later that he wasn't going to make it. So he did us proud. We had a lovely filly called Ragtime that nearly won the test for us in the Grade 1, and only her third start, I think, at the time, and came down to Churchill and won the Dogwood, and ran well in the Raven Run. So she's a nice filly with a nice spring with a filly that Owen Harty had called Verity, won the Beaumont at Keeneland, and then came back. We ran the 8 Bells, and she came out with a little issue. We had to give her time. But she's come back just before Christmas and ran a really nice race, and we'll bring her down to hopefully the Inside Information in Gulfstream in January. Who else we had? We had plenty of them as well. We early on in the year we had poster who we thought were, get us through into the Triple Crown region as well, and didn't quite make it. We had to pull up on him, but he came back nicely, won a nice turf race at Churchill, and then just got nosed out of it in the Harlan's Holiday down in Gulfstream. And we were proud of him. He ran a big race, and he's got an invite to go to the Pegasus, so I think that's where we'll head next with him. And he's a really nice horse. I wouldn't underestimate him at all. And of course, we had East Avenue to run the Derby, and he had a good year. Didn't scale the heights that we expected and thought that he would be able to do. And after the West Virginia Derby, he came up with a little issue. We had to give him time off. He's back down in Florida with Brendan Walsh, and we're hoping that he could do well. 2026. He's a lot of blue sky in front of him for sure. He's a talented horse, a Grade 1 winner as a 2-year-old. So looking forward to getting him back. And we had a great finish up to the year when we had a horse that we've been high on for an awful long time called Knightsbridge, and won the Mr. Prospector just after Christmas. And so it was the first time we've got back-to-back races with him. He's just, again, a horse that, every time we get one step forward, we'd about 4 or 5 steps back. And so it's been a long haul. We've had 2 years waiting for him to get there and put 2 races back-to-back. And, he won that very well last week. And so hopefully we'll have a good 26 with him as well. And if we can keep him sound and healthy.
Well, that's all the time we have. I guess that's fantastic. No, what a great thing to be able to do that, Michael. Just list off all those horses, the successes there, all the different connections and different things as well, all over the continent, frankly. Just a spectacular year for sure. The decision to bring Sovereignty back, though, of course, is why we wanted to have you on the program. And I want to ask it this way. Is there any sort of pressure within the sport at all for someone like you to race this horse again when you see others from his class come back, horses like Journalism or a Magnitude or something like that? Even this last year, when we see those same 3 from the top of the Breeders' Cup Classic come back, finish in that top 3 again in the BC Classic, is there any, hey, I looked at a Sierra Leone, I looked at a Fierceness, now I'm looking at this. Is there any kind of thought of that, or is it purely just, hey, this is what's best for Godolphin?
I think probably just what's best for the horse first and foremost, and then for Godolphin as well. And look, we might be having this conversation if he won the Breeders' Cup, and everyone was touting him big time, and we knew he was going to end there with a major chance. And remember watching some of the FanDuel programs, morning workouts beforehand, and they were practically giving him the trophy already. And so I'm sure he would have had a big chance in the race if he went in there and did something special. I'm sure we wouldn't even be having this conversation now. He would have been in the stallion, more than likely in the stallion barn. But this has given us an opportunity to bring him back and try and rectify not being able to run the Breeders' Cup Classic of 25.
Well, I wanted to ask you, so he ends up scratching from the Classic. He got sick a couple of days before the race. You guys then took him back to Kentucky and took him to Keeneland. And I'm going to put, for our viewers, I'm going to put some pictures up on the screen. Our photographer, Ann Eberhardt, went to see him train the other day. So there he is at Keeneland. But just take us through what the last 2 months have looked like for him. I know you guys were debating on the decision for a little bit. We didn't really see or hear much about what his last 2 months have been like. So what has his last 2 months looked like?
Well, I put a special word in for Johnny Burke and his team at our barn at Rice Road and Keeneland there. They did a phenomenal job with him, keeping him ticking over. And, it took him a while to get over that sickness that he had in Del Mar, whether it was the traveling or whatever it was. And it just wasn't 100%. And so we just sort of had to let him come back to us. But he was in good enough shape to get some galloping into him and, keeping him ticking over. But it just took longer than we anticipated. And we didn't want to send him down to Florida until we were 100% happy with him and that he was doing really well. And, you know, he had a couple of times where he had little fevers through that time frame, and we were just being cautious and wanting to do the right thing with him. And it was easier going to be able to take care of him here in Kentucky. You know, if we had to have any extra veterinary care or anything at all, we would have had it here. And you know, we were very conscious that, you know, he's never really had a sick day in his life, really, and it was on that ship to Delmar. We don't really know why, you know, and we didn't have an answer for it, and it was just disappointing, not only for us, but for the industry in general, for the fans, because I never had so many people from probably overseas that were anxious to see a horse run. That came up to me and wanting to, you know, they're so excited about seeing him, and that was before we had to withdraw him from the race as well, and so it's just he'd sort of, you know, everyone had him on their mind that this was a horse that they wanted to see at the Breeders' Cup. So, you know, fortunately, we're in a good place now. Got him back down to Florida on New Year's Day. Or New Year's Day left, and hopefully, you know, has a good month, and we let Bill build him back up again. And Johnny, you know, he had a nice few gallops into him all along there through December time anyway. So he's not going in there cold. So should be in good shape, hopefully.
We know the importance of the Dubai World Cup to Sheikh Mohammed and the Godolphin operation. Is that something that's still on the table? Is it too early to tell yet? Is there any kind of definitive plans as far as what we're thinking about race-wise?
No, not at the moment. And I think we just let him get back in there, settle in. He's going to be there, you know, on Friday. Let Bill get him back going again, and see where he takes him. Get him back on the work schedule, and then we come up with a game plan. I think the only race that we have in mind is for the end of October at Keeneland. I would like to try and get him back to Keeneland, and work back from there. And there's a lot of nice races through the year, and hopefully we can get him started here whenever the appropriate time might be.
Michael Banahan from Godolphin with us here on BloodHorse Monday. Sean Collins, Louie, Rabaut hanging out with you, talking Sovereignty's return for 2026. You mentioned he's going to go to Florida, and obviously we're working back, in your case, from the Breeders' Cup Classic itself. You know, he gets sick that week, and it does, presents a new sort of dilemma for your team. You talked about horse first, you know, and some of those bouts of fever after the initial one. But the opportunity to bring him back this year and to see him race in these different spots. You mentioned doing right by Godolphin as well. How do races as a 4-year-old enhance maybe his resume? Is there a spot you think other than a Breeders' Cup Classic that could really matter for him?
Well, we saw probably with Flightline that a couple of races he had as an older horse when he was kept in training, how well he was received when he went to Lane's End, how well his stock were received at the sales. So I think anytime you can go in with a really good resume and a top class record, and you're going to go in as the freshman sire with the highest stud fee of your generation, it always leads to, you know, I suppose it's a challenge as well. You're going to be the top of the table, but it certainly helps in that regard if you're going there received as the best of the group of that year, as far as quality of mares that come into your book as well. So I think it's important, and you know, there's always a downside as well. You know, he had an unbelievable record this year. You know, he's in line, you know, as one of the 3-year-olds on the Eclipse ballot, and hopefully, you know, maybe even more than that as well. So to come back, if we don't have the year that we'd like to think that we can have, or if something happens and we don't even get to run this year, even though that's what we're trying to do, that could have a really negative impact on going to stud, especially, you know, we know there's an awful lot of nice horses out there, and if they come back and have a super year, and say, you know, one of them comes along like a horse like a Flightline that was a late developer type of horse, they could take the mantle away, and we've seen that before. So it's not all given to you on a plate. And I go back to like the guys that were on the breakfast show at Del Mar. They were just about giving you the trophy before you had to run, you know. So you have to get into the gate, you have to be able to run, and you have to be able to show it on the racetrack as well. So look, we're going in there with our eyes open, knowing that there's if it doesn't happen for us, it could have a little bit of a negative effect on them, you know. But you're not going to be able to take away what we saw in the Derby and the Belmont and the Travers and even the Jim Dandy, and how impressive he was, and even his impressive return race in the Fountain of Youth. They're always going to be there. You can't take that record away from him. And I think most people recognised that he was the best 3-year-old in the country, and maybe, you know, the odds line makers at the Breeders' Cup Classic were telling us he was the best horse in the race. So whether that would have transpired in the race itself, we would have had to let the latch go off in the gate and find out when they were in there. So no, he's a super horse. We're very proud of him, and but we like to let the horses do the talking, you know. We like to sit in the background and guide them in the right spots where they're meant to be, and let them do the talking. And sometimes they can do that, and sometimes that they don't, you know.
Well, there were a lot of times over the last year and a half or so where whenever we mentioned Sovereignty, we also had to mention Good Cheer in the same conversation, because there were a lot of weekends where they lined up wins together. She fittingly also returned to Payson Park, joined Brad Cox's barn a couple of days ago when Sovereignty came down to Florida as well. Just what has she been up to recently, and what are you guys expecting from her this year?
Well, again, you know, we were a little bit disappointed with her after the Kentucky Oaks. Just didn't hit the highlights that we'd expected her to do. Gave her a bit of time, came back, and into Cotillion, she probably showed us that, you know, she needed a little bit of time off, and so we brought her back to Kentucky and got her checked out, and she had some bone bruising, and indicated that she needed time in the field for a while. So we did that, brought her back, and again, Johnny got her going like we always do in our rehab barn at Keeneland, and has her going and in great shape. And, you know, she did really well in the fall, put on plenty of condition, plenty of weight, looked in great shape heading back to Florida, albeit with a big woolly coat on her, but that was fine. We had an early winter in December time, but she lived out most of the time, and enjoyed her time here. And so we would hope that, you know, she'll probably maybe a little bit later, but, you know, maybe in the springtime we can get her back on track, and there's an awful lot of nice races out there, and hopefully she can be one of the leading older fillies in the country. And it's we saw she was pretty special when she went 7 for 7, culminating in the Oaks, and she was impressive in the Oaks, and hopefully she'll be able to retain that ability and come back and be able to show it as an older horse. And you know, Medaglia d'Oros, they usually improve with age as well, so we'd like to think that there's plenty of improvement in her as well. So we're really looking forward to, and you know, it's special for us and special for the Cox team as well to have an Oaks filly coming back to run as a 4-year-old as well. So we'd like to think that she could give us a lot of fun during the summertime for sure.
Well, Michael Banahan from Godolphin, we appreciate the time very much. You know, just how much joy do you personally get when when you're just standing in a winter circle or in a paddock or something, and FanDuel puts a mic in front of your face and you say, yeah, Sovereignty's going to come down to Florida, and everyone rejoices. How much do you enjoy seeing sort of the fan reaction online and those kinds of things? And do you see it, I should say?
Well, the good thing about me is that I don't see anything negative or not on social media, because I don't do it. But I hear a little bit about it in the background for sure. And so look, it was wonderful to be able to relay that information. We're excited, and we embraced that with the excitement of the fans to be able to see a horse like that. And it's no different to any of the really, really good racehorses. We all would love them to stay in training for as long as possible and be able to see them on the racetrack, because that's what we all enjoy. seeing that ultra talented racing machine out there showing how good they are on the racetrack. So yeah, look, it'll be fun, and just knock on wood that they all stay healthy and well, and we get them to the racetrack, and hopefully that is just done for the industry or for fans as well, but for them to be able to join in and get to the racetrack to see him again, and knowing what a special talent he is, that'll probably be great for all the racetrack, any racetrack that he turns up at, and to be able to have big days out with him again.
Well, I applaud you for avoiding social media. It's a good idea in your life, Michael. Keep it up. It's a good, probably a good resolution for a number of people listening to this thing right now. Maybe Sean Collins. I don't know. It's a whole thing, but no. Be well. Happy 2026, and count Sean and me amongst those that are very excited that Sovereignty will be racing again in 26.
Great. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Michael. Thank you.
There you go, Michael Banahan. From Godolphin, appreciate him jumping on. Always so generous with his time and what's going on in their operation. I mean, Sean, he went like 6 minutes to start of all the good things that happened. It's spectacular. So, if you want to know why they're finalists for Owner of the Year, there it is. There's the answer for you.
Yeah.
Very simple.
Exactly. I mean, right there's the proof of the pudding. Why they're in the conversation for that, and why they've been in the conversation, been winning that award for years and years on end now. So it looks like they're going to be well on their path to another Eclipse of victory in both the Owner and the Breeder Award this year, I would think.
I also appreciate Michael not hiding from what this year is about. If you're going to bring a horse like Sovereignty back, and that's to win the Breeders' Cup Classic, it's to be the best horse on the planet as far as dart is concerned, and to go do those things. He sounded very similar to the Forever Young folks at this time last year, right? And where they said, look, we're working backwards from Del Mar. We want to go back there. We want another shot at the title, essentially, and they're going to go do that. And I am fascinated. I appreciate him saying this. Look, if he doesn't have a fever and he wins the race, we might not even be talking today. I mean, like that's a realistic approach and a realistic thing for Michael to say about that as well. Because look, when I asked about resume as a 4-year-old, if you win the Breeders' Cup Classic as a 3-year-old, ain't much more to do, right? Not the list.
You've already done
gets
everything
real
at that point.
Boom, the list gets real short after that. Oh, we didn't win the Gold Cup or something. I mean, come on, right? And so no, that part I really appreciated too. Just transparency on, resume can get better. It can also get some dings on it if he doesn't come back all the way, right? I mean, that's real talk, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I mean, we just saw this past year, Sierra Leone and Fiercess. I know they didn't win every race, but you can't look at the years that they had and the performances that they had and say they hurt their value at all in the breeding shed. If anything, I think it made them more valuable in the breeding shed going forward to see both of them be really good 2-year-olds, and then both of them still performing at that level and being at the top of their division at 4. And so Sovereignty, the same thing. He had a big win at 2 in the Street Sense. Dominant year as a 3-year-old. If he can come back, even if he doesn't win every single race like he was doing throughout this year, if he could get another big win over Journalism, if he can get a big win in the Breeders' Cup Classic at the end of the year against Forever Young, that's going to do a lot for the breeding value of this horse. So it's exciting to see him come back for this year. We always talk about, man, if we could have seen American Pharaoh at 4, if we could have seen Secretariat at 4, seeing how some of those top horses would have developed as they got older, we're going to see that with Sovereignty. And we're going to see how that dominance continues on into his 4-year-old season. So I'm very excited for that.
The other part is this, and once in a while you have to kind of read between the lines of what people are saying or try to figure it out. He went from 0 to Flightline. Oh, no, Flightline ran as a 4-year-old. That worked out, didn't it? Awesome. Yep. Yes, he did. Yeah, no, it did. You're right. Exactly. It totally did. And so, no, but just it is nice when people just talk about what the realities are. If he wins the Breeders' Cup Classic, we're probably not talking. If he doesn't have a great year, that is a risk for us. We're shooting for Flightline, though. Awesome.
Yes.
Go give us the next Flightline roll. It sounds awesome. So, yeah, that part I really appreciate. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, we don't talk about this part as much either when it comes down to this. It's just, for whatever reason, this isn't something we talk about as much in horse racing as we do in other sports. But this is really the year. If he comes back and he wins, 2, 3 more grade 1s, this is what seals the deal of his Hall of Fame induction as well.
Oh, for
so
sure. Yeah,
it's not just from the breeding value and all of that. This is a year that will be pivotal into turning him into one of the all-time greats of the sport and solidify him in that Hall of Fame. So it's great to see him come back as a 4-year-old and see what he can do this year.
Purely fan perspective too, we get spoiled. We get those 3 guys back last year in Forever Young, in Sierra Leone, in Fierceness. We also get a Mind Frame, right, running as an older horse who we kind of couldn't put all the pieces together on. It feels like we kind of got a magnitude doing that this coming year. But frankly, what you just said is amplified by the fact that all those horses are back. With the journalism being back on the track, he's going to have to beat some of those horses to win some of these races, right? If you're going to win at Saratoga, you're going to have to beat some of those horses. If you're going to win, say, a Met Mile, let's say that's his comeback race, I don't know. You're going to have to beat a journalism in that kind of race. And you, when you talk about Hall of Fame kind of stuff, Sean, it's exactly what we're talking about is who did you beat, what era were you in, and which races did you win? And frankly, if he's already checked off the which races did you win box, right? As far as the Hall of Fame kind of resume, who did you beat? When you're an older horse, that's when you start checking off that box. Now, to be fair, this was a good 3-year-old. Yeah. It just was. But winning just against 3-year-olds is a different question than winning against older horses. I'm excited to see him take it on next year. It'll be great.
Yes. Yeah, it's a very, very exciting to see what's going to come from him this year. I'm very excited for it. I can't wait to see where he ends up racing. I know I'm going to be trying to make it to as many of his races as I can. He was definitely a highlight for me this year, getting up close to him, seeing him. I think I was at, not including his Florida races, I was at every single one of the rest of his races this year. So definitely looking forward to seeing some more sovereignty on the track.
How many people don't vote for sovereignty for 3-year-old of the year, do you think?
Gosh, if anybody did that, there are two awards this year that I think should, without a doubt, be unanimous, and that's Sovereignty as the 3-year-old colt and Ted Nafi as the 2-year-old colt. In my opinion, I think Horse of the Year should be should be that as well. But we already know from our show last week that there was one vote from Forever Young out there at least, and I know he's probably
at least one. That's right.
But yeah, I would think that 3-year-old colt hopefully would be unanimous. So we'll see if our fellow voters agree on that one. But
all three of us, I think all three of us unanimous on sovereignty last weekend, and then numerous votes for Godolphin for owner and breeder as well on the program last week. So there you go. Yes. Well, good stuff.
Also, just to mention, Good Cheer also ended up nominated for Champion 3-year-old filly off the first strong the first half of the year. So give her a shout out for that as well.
I try to remember. I'm almost positive I left her in my ballot just because the first half of the year was so impossible to overlook. She was so good. Certainly the win in the Kentucky Oaks was, I mean, it was as impressive, frankly, as Sovereignty's win in the Derby. So good stuff that weekend for sure. But the other part is I think I don't want people to take for granted how involved Michael is, because we see him everywhere, man. We see him everywhere.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
we saw him at Indianapolis.
I saw Michael just this year. Oh man, at least 6 different tracks, at least. So I mean, there's a reason Godolphin's on that list every year for finalist, and it's because it's a serious operation with serious people. And so congratulations to them. So glad we're going to get to see Sovereignty at least a couple more times. Hopefully, a couple more times. Keep him healthy and keep him on the track. Be a lot of fun. 4 Derby preps over the weekend. 2 of them officials and 2 of them unofficials. And I've decided I'm going to have a very specific role in horse racing here, Sean.
Okay.
I think of everything as a path to something. And I think this is from being a dad. You always think of like, hey, if your kid gets good at doing homework in 6th grade, they'll be good at doing it in high school. This kind of thing. Whatever. Everything's a path to something. Okay. And I love the road to the Derby. I think it's a great idea. I think conceptually it's an awesome idea. So I love it.
It's fantastic. I love it.
Yes. I have extended it to the Preakness on my podcast, the Horse Racing Happy Hour. We do Road to the Preakness shows because they run their races in the middle of the month just like they will with the Tessio. And that's a win and in for the Preakness. So we do Road to the Preakness. I think we need to start calling these races that aren't officially Derby points races still on the trail. So, for example, the race at Turfway, the preview, is on the Derby trail as far as I'm concerned because they got a 100-point prep at that place, and this one is a month before the minor prep, okay? And I think the Mucho Macho Man at Gulfstream Park is absolutely on the Derby trail before you get to the Swale and the other things. What says Sean Collins about my thoughts?
No, I agree with that. I always thought, this is just me wanting us to pay attention to more stuff that we probably need to pay attention to. But I've always thought it would be interesting. Some of these other 3-year-old stakes, like the ones you mentioned in Maryland, like the ones this past weekend, the Mucho Macho Man, the Turfway preview, some of these races, maybe we don't do the full points value. Maybe we get 5 points to the winner, 3 points to second, 1 point to third. This kind of these unofficial prep races that are still 3-year-old stakes stakes races at some of these major tracks. Maybe we just give it a little incentive to maybe get some
just
horses
5 points
in
to the
there.
winner. Just 5 points to the winner. Just
Yeah.
That's it. That's all we're doing.
Something like that.
You win the
Be
mucho,
helpful.
you get 5 points. Oh,
something that would be helpful in the tiebreaker scenario when we get to that mass of horses that's in between 40 and 50 points. Something that could maybe help you out is getting a stakes win in one of these kind of minor ones leading into these roads. That's something that I'm putting way too much work on Churchill Downs at this point. They got enough. They got enough
together,
races.
That's right. Yeah,
no. They've got enough races to concern themselves with as it is on this prep series. But I always like to. I mean, we've talked many times on this show about how much I love the Triple Crown, how much I love the Derby, and the more I can get excited for that, the more I can be like, "Oh, this race means something." The more that it just makes me feel better. I know there's a lot of people who would be interested in that as well. So give 5 points to the winner of the Mucho Macho Man. Why not, right?
You were at Aqueduct over the weekend. I spoke with our colleague Bob E. Halt on Friday on my radio show ahead of the trip, and I asked him the question: who's the most likely winner here? And who's the most likely Derby starter out of this group? And he landed on the same horse, and that was the winner in my world. This is a Brad Cox trainee. This is a route that of recent years Brad has started to use more and more on his way to the Kentucky Derby. I don't want to get too excited about one-turn miles in January with 4-horse fields, Sean, but all the breeding, all the connections say that this horse can be and should be a force as we move along the the Gotham and those sorts of races there. What do you make of his win at Aqueduct? You were there in person, yes?
Yes. Yeah, and right after the race, I told my dad, I was like, we may not have seen a large field, but the winner's a legitimate horse. So that was the benefit of that. You look at him, he's a son of essential quality, so he's probably the longer the better for him. And it seemed he ran like that in this race as well. It looked like in the middle of the stretch he maybe wasn't going to get to Balboa, but then as you got closer and closer to the finish, it looked like he just kind of locked in. And that last eighth of a mile, the last 16th of a mile, he came up and he got the job done. So this is a horse that I think definitely is going to be one to look at when you're looking at Brad's team. I'm interested to see what they do with him going forward. Do you keep him on the New York road? I know Brad sometimes will shuffle the horses around. Maybe he ends up in in the Sam or the Tampa Bay Derby, in that series. Maybe he ends up in Louisiana at some point, or Florida, now that Brad's got a presence down there. So it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. But I do think that this is a horse that looked legitimate. I think Balboa is a nice horse. I don't know what I make of his distance capabilities long term, but it's not this time, so you can't fault him for that. But
absolutely. Right.
So he's a nice horse as well. I thought these two horses were legitimate horses. We'll see if they turn into Derby horses, but I think they both got a shot to as we're going forward.
So Quebec is the mare here, okay, on your winner, and she's a daughter
Into Mischief mare.
Mischief, okay. Distorted humor mare for her, and then you get the essential quality breeding. Now this is a horse in Quebec is the mom here for my world. She was a multiple black type sort of listed stakes winner down in New Orleans, and so she's got a little bit of that. Like you said, she's a daughter of Into Mischief, but distorted humor on her damn side. And so just an interesting pedigree of distance, right? And so that's why with this one, I think this is one of those sires we're going to have to start watching in essential quality as we get into this kind of type of year, probably more next year, frankly, when his numbers start to kick up a little bit. These horses are going to stretch out well, I think. I think they're just going to be good. And my world, certainly, in my mind at least, and you saw him in person, so you'll know better than me, he fits that bill for me. I think the 10 furlongs won't be an issue.
No, it won't be an issue. He looked good winning this weekend. It wasn't like he was struggling to get by and he just barely got by right at the end. No, he was a good strong winner when they were coming down to the wire here, and he looked like a horse that was going to appreciate more ground. And going into it, I thought he looked really well in the paddock ahead of time. I know I'm not always the best judge for that, but he did stand out to me in the paddock, and as did Balboa. Balboa looked good in there as well. But yeah, I do think this is a legitimate horse. He came out of a good win in the Nashua. Now he's going forward with this win here in the Jerome, and so I imagine we'll start looking. I don't know if he would come back right away in the Withers if he does stay in New York or not. I think that would honestly, in my opinion, be a better option than the Gotham, because that gets you a mile and an eighth rather than returning back at the mile for the Gotham. So we'll see where they end up with him. Robert LaPenta, Madaket Stables on the ownership. Yeah. They're going to be involved with trying to get this horse there to the Derby. They've been involved in very nice horses, especially recently.
If he likes Aqueduct, leave him there, right? I mean, like, God, just get a starting spot. Like, I honestly, last year, if Rodriguez makes it, I think he's a major contender, Sean. I don't think it's the Wood Memorial thing. I know the Fusaichi Pegasus thing and all that, blah, blah, blah. Just get to the darn starting gate. It's good. Some Wood Memorial horse is going to win the Derby at some point. I mean, just get your horse there. And, if your horse is comfortable at Aqueduct, that's how you qualify. If your horse is comfortable at Turfway, you go to Turfway and qualify for the Kentucky Derby because it's a freaking Kentucky Derby, Sean. It is
exactly
what it is, right? So if
you're speaking my language,
if that's where my world is best, then leave them in New York and win those races. I don't care if they're at a mile. Just go win those races. That's what I would say. At least at this point in at least at this point in the trail. Strategic Risk. How about the Florida bred? Goes ahead and I think turns in. I'll go ahead and say it. I think the performance of the weekend, not just on the Derby Trail, but in general, I thought he was that good.
Do you think this is the performance of the Derby Trail so far?
Trail. I gotta say, I like Noffy in the Breeders' Cup Classic still quite a bit. And then I thought
I didn't realize he ran in the Breeders' Cup Classic,
or the Juvenile, excuse me. But the and then is it Incredibolt? Am I remembering that name correctly?
Yep.
Those are kind of the three for me right now. But I thought this one was for this weekend, and I mean all of horse racing across North America. This was as good a performance as I saw. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. I'm not going to disagree with you. He looked really good here. Obviously, especially when you're comparing. I know we can expect My World is going to be able to take the distance, but this one being around 2 turns definitely stands out a little bit more than the Jerome did. This one being the mile to 16th here, but yeah, he looked really good. Nice to see Javier Castellano on another good young horse moving towards the Derby. Mark Cassie and John Oxley, the trainer and the owner here, they run 1-2 in this race, so let's not discount the fact that they ran second here with Silent Tactic, and it's he looked really good this weekend. I'm excited to see what he does moving forward. Fun fact, I don't know if people know this or not, but when you take out the Kentucky breds, Florida is the second winningest state in the Kentucky Derby. Florida breds are. So don't discount him just because he's a Florida bred.
Noble Bird, of course, a son of why am I doing this? Of Bird Stone. And I had Stone in my head instead of Bird, and I don't know why that was. But a Fleet Alex on the other side too. So distance ain't going to be it. We very clearly saw a horse that could run a lot longer, even at this point in a very early developed 3-year-old campaign. But it's interesting too because we get different horses of different experience. This is one that's run now in three stakes and then 2 Florida bred stakes as well. So of the 6 races for this horse, 5 of them at a very high level, and that doesn't include winning on debut in June at Gulfstream Park. So I can't hold a debut win against a horse either. So this is one that's interesting to me, Sean, because, maybe this one just wasn't ready for, say, a Sanford or with anticipation up at Saratoga over the summer. And he's getting more into what this horse is capable of doing, growing into himself a little bit here. As you mentioned, Javier Castellano wins a lot of these races, man. He just does. Mm-hmm. And you were at Saratoga. It's just once in a while you look down at the program, you're like, oh, right, Javier. All right. Yeah.
Yep.
Forgot about that. He seems to be one of those. So I would not be surprised if this horse continues along well. Over at Turfway Park, we had the Turfway preview, and I think this is where we saw a field where we're very unlikely to get a good 10 furlong type 2-turn horse race. But I did want to shout out the Maryland connections of hometown bound Victor Carrasco came to town, to ride for this one. And this is a horse that is trained, of course, by Jorge Duarte Jr. I think a sprinter, though, Sean. And by the way, go get $200,000 checks if you can. So that was a good idea.
Yeah. I mean, hey, 125,000, 6.5 furlongs. That ain't a bad deal. Especially, I mean, we've talked a lot on this show about synthetic and how important that could be as these this purse money goes up. There's an example of it right there. That's a pretty nice purse to take home with your sprinter there. But yeah, I agree with you there on that. We'll see whether or not I guess they go forward with some of those. But Sentimentoli, obviously a champion sprinter, right. So you'd think that's going to be probably what he wants to do best. And we'll see as well. The Leonatus coming up at Turfway, I think 2 Saturdays from now. So we'll get another idea of who some of these Turfway 3-year-olds to keep an eye on will be, I think, in that race. I think that might give us a little better idea.
The Leonatus, the Battaglia, and of course the Jeff Ruby Stakes, all on the Derby Trail there in Florence at Turfway Park. Final one was the Mucho Macho Man down there at Gulfstream Park. We get a winner in Commandment, and people trying, I think, not to get too excited about this one. This is one we last saw for the Wathnan folks up here at Churchill Downs. Brad Cox trains here, man. A couple of winners going a mile. It sounds like it's getting to be Brad Cox season here.
Yeah, it seems to be the time of year where we're going to start seeing a bunch of his horses picking off stakes, doesn't it? But yeah, let me just say, I really hope this horse has a successful career, just so when I write about him, I can already think about different ways to pull the commandment into the intro of some stories when he
Thou
wins
shalt
some
not
big
pass.
races.
Yeah, right, something like that.
So there should be some good article writing potential if this turns into a good one here. But we've seen Wathnan winning so many big races across the world now. One place we haven't really seen them too much. I know they've had a couple horses here or there has been on the Derby Trail, so it'd be nice to see as they continue to grow their global presence. We talk about Godolphin, we talk about Juddmonte, and some of these big international places that are originally based in the Middle East. It'd be nice to see Wathnan kind of start jumping in there as well and have a good horse on this Derby Trail. So hopefully we'll get to see him take a step forward. I know that Florida road I think is going to be tough. I know Ted Naffy's going to be down there. I believe Incredible is probably pointing for that as well. I think that's going to be where he's going to end up wintering. So yeah, that's going to be a tough. It always is, but it's going to be extra tough this year coming out of Florida. Whoever comes out of the Florida races this year are going to be legit, and you saw that last year with Sovereignty. But I think Florida is definitely at this point, I think, kind of the number one place we're going to have to watch some of these Derby prospects.
Yeah, I think there's something about Sean, and I always wonder if there's a part of you that does what I do, which is I like to look at which places are historically significant on the Derby Trail. Gulfstream, Santa Anita, those sorts of places for sure jump to mind immediately. And then you get places like Aqueduct, which are down currently, but historically are unbelievably important. But that's back when the Wood Memorial was like the grade one before the Derby, that kind of stuff.
That was back when you would run at Gulfstream and then go to Aqueduct then go to Churchill. So.
Exactly right. And so back those kinds of things. And so it's fun to see these kinds of races, and certainly this mile race stands out to me. But yes, as you said, it'll be interesting to see who ends up on that Florida path. But this is a horseman in Commandment that first Derby I ever went to was Orb. And I'm not saying that this has anything to do with me, but we're getting Derby essential qualities in here. We're getting Orbs in here. These kinds of horses that we know can do this thing that just aren't named Into Mischief, that are just named Gunrun or something like that. Get a little bit more of these. I'm pretty excited by this stuff. Do you like the move from the name Orb to Commandment? Do you like that?
Yes. Yeah. Orb, the broodmare sire here on this one. I do like that. Yes.
Okay, fair enough. All right, good enough. But yes, Commandment here, and Into Mischief, and the Orb broodmare sire. Why not? Let's get into that there for sure. Not a ton of Derby preps for a couple of weeks, Sean, as we get into other parts of the trail. Certainly, you mentioned the Sam and the Tampa route will start to kick up very, very soon. But after those 4 races, anybody especially stand out? Are we leaning on maybe the performance there in the Smarty Jones?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think you definitely have to include that horse really at the top of your list. Right now, I'm not one that's going to take Incredible off the top of my list until he comes back and I see what he's made of here for his 3-year-old season. So he's still my top one right now. But with how tough Florida looks right now, this is going to be, Ted Naffy was so dominant during the 2-year-old season, winning the Hopeful, winning the Breeders' Futurity, winning the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, New York, Kentucky, California, checking all the boxes. Now, I think the big story moving forward here is he going to come back and continue developing, or is he going to come back even if he's running the exact same and he's at the same level? Is he going to come back and these other horses are going to catch up to him? That's the exciting part of this time of year. I mean, we could be having all this debate on the horses, and then Ted Nafi just ends up being this otherworldly talent that just sweeps through everything, and we'll have to wait and see. But I'm excited to see exactly what's brewing down there in Florida, and we got some nice horses elsewhere with Oaklawn and Aqueduct. We got a nice group of three newly turned 3-year-olds now, so far. So we'll see how this goes. And don't, even though there's not any official preps this weekend, don't stop paying attention. Owen Almighty was in the Pasco last year, and it was a dramatic Pasco, but he was in it. So don't be sleeping on this weekend.
By the way, shout out 11.5 length win for Dazzling Dame there in the Busanda.
Yes.
I'll let you do 30 seconds on the Busanda and say something nice about Brittany Russell. How about that? There you go.
Yes. Well, no, it's exciting to see Brittany Russell on the big stage with a horse. And also, she had Balboa, who we mentioned second there in the Jerome. So it's nice to see her with a couple big horses heading toward the Kentucky races here in the spring. But yeah, I mean, she impressed me. That was a very professional win from her. She just drew off down the lane. I know she's only facing a couple of rivals, 4 rivals after the one scratch. But I mean, she handled them. Some of those other fillies that were in there had shown to be some nice fillies in some stakes races before, and she just handled them. I also want to give a shout out. Let me double check, make sure I get his name right. The horse that scratched from the Jerome.
Maitlon? Yeah.
I've got Mylata.
Mylata.
I know he faced 2 horses at Parks in the week leading up to it. I was there at that race, so
but he won by $1 billion, didn't he?
Yeah, he won by 19 lengths. I gotta say, I was standing there watching it, and I see him just blow past the two horses in front of him were having a little personal duel down the backstretch. He just surged right past him and just drew off. I don't know what led to the decision to not run him in the Jerome and run him in that race. Obviously, I can't fault the decision with how easily he won. I thought he won easy enough on Tuesday. He probably came back on Saturday if he wanted to and run in the Jerome. But I hope they give him a shot to leave Parks and maybe try one of these other New York prep races down the line. I thought he looked really. I mean, he's facing 2 horses and he was geared down the entire stretch. But I enjoyed seeing him, so I want to give him a little shout out since I was there at Parks that day. A little shout out to Mylata.
Tampa's drawn for the Pasco on Saturday is not out, but certainly we'll be awaiting that one for the weekend. The Tampa Derby. Of course, the earliest of the 50 points races, not the races, but of those derbies, right? Isn't it? I'm trying to remember. Is the Risen Star right before it? Something like that. As we get into that.
No, for the 50 pointers, no, the Risen Star will be first, and then you have quite a few of the other ones.
Right.
Fountain of Youth, the San Felipe, and all that. The Tampa Bay Derby's kind of, it's in that spot where it can be the final prep if you want it to be. We're 7 weeks out, I think.
We call that the King Guillermo route to the Derby. That's what we call it.
Yes. Well, yes. Was he the COVID year though? Did he have the extra couple months?
Man,
I'm getting my years mixed up.
I think it was 2019, but anyways, it's not important.
There's been horses that have done that where they, especially
now
if
you're
Chad
making
Brown
me during the show
race.
Go to the King Guillermo.
Hey, you brought him up.
Equibase pace. Yeah, but how dare you ask me a question about him? How dare you expect me to have knowledge about something that I brought up? What a ridiculous thing for you to think. That was 2020. Good job by you.
There you go. Woo.
But he ran to be fair to him, he ran and won the Tampa Bay Derby, then ran second in the Arkansas Derby. So it's not like he just
which was held on Derby Day, so it was Correct. The same timing. So
yeah. So there you go. He would have hit the board in the Kentucky Derby. So there you go. Can you name the winner of that Arkansas Derby in 2020? That's a good one.
There were 2.
Oh, look at
Charlatan.
You. Yeah, look at you. Good job. All right.
Did Charlatan end up keeping his? I know there was he ended up keeping the win, right?
I don't know. That part I don't
I think
remember,
he did.
Of course.
But yes, it was Nadal and Charlatan. They crossed the wire first in those 2 Arkansas Derbies.
I'm going to say something wildly unpopular to close the show here. COVID was very good for my career. And actually, that Arkansas Derby was excellent for my career. We had something in the neighborhood of 40 times as many listeners as we usually did on the Horse Racing Happy Hour because it was the only thing going at the time. Do you know what else could be the only thing going in your life? That's BloodHorse Magazine. So check out the QR code at the bottom of the page right now if you're watching on YouTube or on Spotify. Click on there, get it sent to your house every month, and of course, you can include that stallion registry if you'd like something to read by the pool in the summer. Not right now, it's very cold. But yes, go check it out right now. BloodHorse Magazine. It's also available at bloodhorse.com. Click on the magazine tab at the top of the homepage. And if you haven't signed up for the daily, go do that. Want to give a shout out to our guy Pete, who's retiring from said duties there at BloodHorse. Big fan of Pete's, but go check out the daily tab as well. Start your day with BloodHorse. Cost you nothing. Come straight to your email and get your day started on the right foot that way as well. Well, Sean will be back next week. Obviously, if anyone was wondering, yes, they decided to re-up us for this year and not replace us with Bob and Bob, which would have been a really good decision. But they are not going to do that.
we haven't made it to a full year of episodes yet. We might be in a new year. We got 3 more to go.
Oh, man. This could turn out really poorly for us. It really could. The Pasco is this weekend, man. I'm excited about that. I'm ready for the new year to kick in and these Derby preps to really kick in and all the speculation, all the fun, all that kind of stuff. Should be a lot of fun as well. Appreciate Michael Banahan jumping on with us on the show as well. Next week, we'll be back. Does Sean like the Pasco?
The BloodHorse is dedicated to the improvement of thoroughbred breeding and racing for over 100 years. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and save BloodHorse Monday on all your platforms. For the latest news, analysis, and insights, visit us at bloodhorse.com.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.